Hello everyone, Crash here, this RTA Motorsports. We finally got the PROSIMU cockpit together, but we're going to go over the build process as well as my initial thoughts, as I've only had this for a few days. So, here we go.
Welcome to RTA Motorsports.
Just as an initial disclaimer, I'm going to let you know that PROSIMU did not supply us with this rig for free. We did purchase this rig. Total build time took about 4.5 to 5 hours, and I was not rushing at all. That's with setting up programs, eating some meals here and there. I will say that the build was a lot of fun, pretty simple, very straightforward. The instructions supplied came to me by email in PDF format in the form of images. The rig is actually pretty easy to put together, and looking at images you can see how it goes together quite simply, although Patrick did say he's there in case I need any sort of assistance or have any questions whatsoever. The seat that I'm using is an energy seat from eBay. The reason being, the shipping cost to America is quite high if he has to send you the OMP seat. So I recommend, if you live in America and you're ordering this rig, either source your own seat or use the base PROSIMU seat.
All right, everyone, so the build actually wasn't that bad. It was actually a lot of fun, but here is the finished product. Hello everyone, welcome inside the rig. So I'm going to show you what this rig is all about and some of the motion that's involved, as well as I'm going to discuss some of my thoughts with owning a piece like this and how it's conveyed while in the sim, especially while in VR. So here we go. All right, so welcome. We're inside Assetto Corsa, and this is actually what we're going to be doing here. We're going to be looking at the Porsche 919 Hybrid, the 2016 model, all with this new track. Now, obviously, this is a fake track made by Assetto Corsa, NVIDIA, and Sparco, but I love the track. I actually think it's really cool. These fantasy tracks are actually coming out really, really neat. The thing about it is the amount of telemetry that comes to the rig from this track is amazing. Now, other tracks, I mean, you still get a bunch of telemetry and whatnot. But this one here, there's so many different aspects. You have the beginning that's all cobblestone, and you'll see what I mean. Now, the reason why I chose this car, my friend was over yesterday, and he tried out the rig, and he absolutely loves the rig. And he was using, in the very beginning, a bunch of normal-ish cars. Some, the Porsche Panamera, stuff like that. And we decided to throw him in the 919 Hybrid, a purpose-built race car. And the amount of force that was exerted on him, as well as me afterwards when I tried it, from this rig was amazing. And I think it's going to do a good job in demonstrating the possibilities of motions. I know a lot of people out there wouldn't like it because of how almost violent it can get. But yeah, I'm still tweaking the settings. I've only had this for about a day, 2 days built and working. So here we go. Here we go. This should be quite interesting to watch, to say the least. Feels pretty good. So we're inside the Porsche 919 now. And the first thing you notice is that when you're standing still, there's no, unless there's a way to, I'm sure there is in all these programs that you could use, there's no motion in the rig at all. And that's where the simvibe would come in to kind of convey the engine vibration. But once you start getting going, you really notice that you don't feel simvibe anymore. There is such little throw with these and I feel a little bit of vibration from the engine, and I think it's the surge effect, but it's very slight. But there's such little throw with these cylinders here that you really get so much vibrations and road telemetry, like these cobblestones. Oh man, you really feel that suspension's really hard. and then it kind of smoothens out a little bit as you hit the road here. Now I've only driven this literally one lap yesterday in this car, so we're probably going to destroy this car, but it's so brutal in VR. Well, even on the screen, because yesterday we were just using the monitor and it was so intense. With the motion, it's that extra, oh no, it's that extra level of immersion. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Is it going to make me a better driver? No, probably not. I mean, I could drive a little bit more by the seat of my pants, I guess. But it's that extra level of immersion that if that's what you're looking for, oh my gosh. And when you accelerate, the whole rig leans back. You actually feel like you're being thrusted into the seat, and when you brake hard, as you'll see up here, the whole rig leans forward, thrusts you forward. I can feel that this road here is not perfect. It's actually kind of a rough ride, getting jolted side to side. As I turn in high speeds, I can feel the G-forces on the seat. See how the whole rig leans forward on the hard braking there. Kind of lit up the tires a little bit to try to demonstrate hard braking. I'll do it and try to do it again up here a little bit. Next hard turn that we have. See that? Oh, that's amazing. You really feel like a G-force is acting on you. Oh, geez. Every shift is so violent in this car. And you can adjust things car for car. Now, he doesn't actually give you any software with this. A lot of people seem to use SimTools. I already had SimTools 1.3 because I was going to try to, before this, if you look at my older videos, I kind of was discussing, I wanted to build my own rig. So I was trying to figure out how to use SimTools, get a little Arduino board, build like a tabletop little rig. Oh, the cobblestones. It's so immediate. Tag the wall a little bit. Oh, jeez. Oh, jeez. Can almost barely talk while doing this. Such a flat turn. And you can really tell that it's a flat turn because the seat doesn't really lean that much. All right, that was amazing. So one thing I definitely want to touch on is, again, this rig from PROSIMU does not come with any software. So that means you're kind of open to a wide variety of different types of motion software you can use. There is quite a few of them out there. The most commonly used one is the one that I'm using, and that's SimTools. Now, I already own SimTools, as I said before, because I was going to try to make my own DIY DIY motion rig, just like I did my DIY handbrake in the past. And I had, in the very beginning, if you look at my old videos on the channel, I even had a DIY H-pattern shifter. And in the end, you know, just like everything else, I ended up buying the actual product. And it's partially because of my engineering abilities and my limited resources as far as tools that I have. I need to buy more. But, you know, I don't have access to a CNC machine or a 3D printer or anything like that. So everything I was making was kind of handmade, and it worked for the time and kind of validated my want and need to continue on in sim racing. So I figured, you know, time to fork up the buck and actually get the products that are meant for sim racing and a little bit more durable, a little bit better feeling, like this handbrake here that I keep pulling on. I absolutely love this Club Sport handbrake, but I thought about that, and I thought about my building abilities and some of the plans that are out there, and I just didn't think that I was going to be satisfied with a DIY product that I can make myself, unless if I had a welder and some steel lying around. And then I started planning the costs, and I saw how much the cost was going to be to build the rig the way I wanted to build the rig. And really the cost started mounting up. These SEN6s, these are quite pricey, these pistons here. I was going to use SEN5s. SEN6s are a little bit stronger from what I read, and that's what comes with this PROSIMU. So if you price up 2 SEN6s and the steel to make the rig the way I wanted to make it, it was going to be cheaper than this PROSIMU, but my time, I was going to spend a long time building it, and which is fine, and it's a lot of fun if you're into projects like that and whatnot. But right now in my life, it didn't really make much sense, especially being that how affordable this cockpit is. I just decided, as I have done with many of my other DIY projects, just to go and buy the actual item. So unfortunately, I still have to use SimTools 1.3. I did purchase the 2.1 commercial license. They do have the 2.1 commercial for rigs that are not DIY, but you need software to use it. Now the 2.1 commercial, unfortunately, I tried to use it and it's not working with this rig yet. It does say that they have SDN6 support, but it's not working. So that's one of the current problems. So I'm still having to use 1.3, but I did purchase the 2.1 commercial license. Another problem that I had was when I first was setting up this rig, I didn't know that Patrick actually emails you the instructions to do so. And I just, you know, looked in all the boxes, didn't see the instructions, and I kind of saw how it would go together. It's really not rocket science, but it is kind of difficult. So I just decided to start building it. And in the middle of the build, I was like, you know what? I really need to verify that I'm putting this together correctly. Even though there's not a lot of pieces in this PROSIMU T1000 2 Degrees of Freedom motion platform. There's really not a lot of parts. There's a lot of big parts, but not a lot of little parts. So I kind of, you know, it's not rocket science how it went together. You look at a few pictures, you could see almost all the parts there. But I wanted to make sure I was doing it right. So I emailed Patrick. I'm like, hey, where are the instructions? And they were emailed to me. So definitely, if you purchase this rig, check your email box because your instructions are there. And he also lets you know all the different types of motion software you may want to look into, because there's quite a few. But as I said, I was already familiar with SimTools, so I went that route. But another issue I was having was when you actually build the rig, and it's not really that big of an issue, there is slots all around the actual platform itself. And there is nuts that you put on the inside of this channel, and you can't fit your finger inside the channel. Now Patrick was very clever in his design that he put holes underneath the places where you're going to have to feed a nut through. So what you do is you drop this, I'm going to call it a channel nut because that's almost what it looks like, into the channel itself, into the actual platform, and then you go from underneath with a long bolt. You kind of feed it a few threads in and you push that nut all the way up to the mounting surface on the top, and then you could feed your top bolt down, get a few threads, back out the long bolt, and then tighten it up the rest of the way. It's once you get the hang of it a few times, it's actually really easy. It just takes a little bit more time to build it, but the end result is the rig is actually really clean looking. You don't see too much of anything. You see these really beautiful bolts that have a almost like a hex head sort of, or an Allen key, I should say, sort of hole in the middle, but it's really beautiful hardware that he supplied. But you don't see, you know, just normal nuts and bolts kind of all over the place. Really pretty hardware. But that brings me to my next point. He also sells these plastic head hand twist bolts, and I highly recommend them if you're going to have people over to use your rig, because generally when you have a motion rig, you're going to want to show it. You're going to want people to experience it. It's all a part of the fun of sharing the experience, and I love having people over, my friends over, and share the experience with them. You know, it's like having an arcade in your house. It's a lot of fun just to have people come over and have fun. And if you're in a motion simulator, more than likely you're probably the same way. You're going to want people to have fun, so that means you're going to have to adjust things, because not everyone is the same height and the same size. Between me and my friends, we have kind of a wide spread of heights, weight, and whatnot. And so I'm going to have to move things back and forth. The pedal deck, the steering wheel, the chair you can't really move. So everything else has to move. And you really have two key components that move. And that's the pedal deck and the wheel mounting surface that has the shifters and everything attached to it. So it moves as two separate units, the pedal deck and the wheel mounting surface. You're probably going to want to get those plastic capped thumb screws or thumb bolts or whatever for those areas, so that way you can just reach down, loosen them up by hand, move whatever it is, and then tighten it back up. I chose not to do that. I might go back and just order some of those bolts. So the power supply, it is a universal laptop power supply, but it does have the plug that they use in France. So you're going to need to, I'm not sure if it's going to cause an issue or not, but as you unplug any sort of power supply, like for a laptop, you'll notice that it has the, and I'm going to unplug this here, and it has that universal 3-prong there. So I basically just took from my other laptop, I had quite a few of those cables lying around the house of different lengths, and I had a really long one, and I just took that cable, plugged it in there, and it worked. I don't think there's any issue, because it is identical and it fits just as anything else, and I seem to be doing just fine. If you know if there's actually any issue using an American style plug in that universal area, definitely let me know, but I don't really see or feel any issues otherwise. But overall, I would say the build actually went really smooth. I do have the 2 shifter brackets. Another thing that you're gonna wanna make sure that you keep in mind is that the shifter brackets are bare. So right now with my TH8A, I'm using the clamp mount to it, and it's pretty darn solid. This TH8A clamp mount is actually really good, and I'm not getting any motion from it, but I do want a hard mount. So you're gonna have to drill into them. So it's pretty cool that it's bare, because you get to drill into it whatever pattern you need, and it's not just filled with random patterns and looks like Swiss cheese. But on the other side, you have to drill into it. You're gonna have to do some work to make it fit your equipment. So yeah, it kind of goes by either way there. Also, I did have an issue trying to fit the 2 shifter clamps on the actual rig itself together. Reason being, they're both the same size. They both mount. There's only about, I would say, 5 or 6 holes that they can mount into, and it's just in a straight row. So both kind of go right on top of each other like that. So unless you have something like the TH8A, we're kind of lucky, has a little bit of a lip that comes out with the mounting surface, so that way the shifter is not right above the mounting surface. But if you have something like, for instance, a Club Sport handbrake, it's going to have to be on the top of the TH8A no matter what, because it mounts directly onto its mounting surface. So I'm kind of having some issues there. I may drill some extra holes into this bar here that the wheel is mounted to, just so I could have a little bit more flexibility of where I mount these shifter plates. But you could really make it work either way. The pedal deck, I'm using the as you've seen, the T500 pedals, and I do have a brake mod on mine with some little RC car shocks, just to kind of give it a little bit more of resistance, a little bit of a hydraulic feel. The problem with that is it makes it a lot harder to depress the brake pedal. And I'm actually surprised that this pedal deck, with the weight of the pedals inverted, there's no flex whatsoever. This pedal deck is solid, absolutely solid, and I'm very happy about that. So I am very confident that this pedal deck, there's no flex whatsoever, and I'm pressing pretty darn hard right now. I'm very confident that this pedal deck can hold, as long as you could mount it, many different types of pedals. Because, I mean, really, I was just wrenching down on that pedal, and there was no play in the pedal deck at all. So as far as the wheel deck itself, you got to really wrench down to see any sort of motion from it, and it's to be expected in my eyes, because of just the fact that it's not welded solid, one piece kind of going all the way around. It is very thick steel, it's very heavy steel. That's another thing that really surprised me. Once you start building this rig, everything is pretty darn heavy duty. There is no thin little pieces of metal anywhere. Everything here is basically stuff that you could use to build industrial rigs out of. Everything here is really, really well built. The bracing, everything is really good, and I'm really impressed by it. There is, like I said, there's a little bit of wheel wobble if you push on the wheel real hard. You could probably see it there. And that's simply just because of how the how the wheel deck is mounted to the rest of the rig itself. But I'm pretty confident no matter what wheel you put this on, as long as you tighten it down, you would be just fine. In normal sim racing, there's like no motion whatsoever. I actually watched my friend who was racing, and that's kind of, I was looking at the rig and seeing how the rig was handling it, and I didn't notice any sort of motion in the rig at all, besides the motion of the platform. You know, there's several other motion rigs out there that are seat movers, and I'm sure they're amazing, and I'm sure if you buy them, they're going to impress just as well. But I did personally want a rig that moved the entire body, that the pedals mount to, that the wheel mounts to, and you're moving as one unit. And this one here just seemed to make the most sense to me, because it's a 2 degrees of freedom motion platform, but the way that it moves is almost like how you would experience in a car, because you have the front wheels kind of moving when you run over anything, and you're kind of experiencing everything from the front of the vehicle first. And that's kind of what this reminded me of, whereas these two SCN6s are the wheels of the vehicle, and I'm experiencing everything in that order. And to me, it just seemed like a very intelligent, simple, and elegant design. Everything was really clean, everything was really tightened up and small. To be honest with you, besides the width of the SCN6s, this does not take up any more room than my Playseat Challenge. Actually, my Playseat Challenge, because of its laid back design, was quite a bit longer. This here can fit anyone. I think it's up to 6'4", or maybe even beyond that, because I slid the pedals all the way out. I'm 6 feet. I slid the pedals all the way out, and I couldn't even reach the pedals. So I'm sure there's plenty more room there to spare for someone beyond that height. But even then, it was like just getting close to the length of, you know, what I was experiencing with the Playseat Challenge. As you could see from the initial point of this video, I was able to actually put this in under my desk, as many people do, so that way it's not in the middle of the room. It's not going to anger my wife. My wife still has her workstation right over here to the right, and all as well. It's very compact, very elegant, very intelligent design, and yet it's a motion rig that moves your entire body. And I was sold. Let's put it that way, especially with how cost effective and how affordable it was. So definitely you're going to see this rig a lot more. I look forward to maybe in the future reviewing other rigs. Now again, this is just my initial thoughts. This is not a review. I am going to do a comprehensive review. I'm looking definitely to use this a lot more, especially not in VR, because I want to see what the rig does. I'm going to record certain parts of the rig to see if there's any sort of flex when certain things happen. So also, I just want to remind everyone, this is not a sponsored video. PROSIMU did not send this to me for free. I purchased this. But there is going to be, like I said, a comprehensive video of review of this rig coming in the future, as well as I always look forward to reviewing other rigs. So we'll try to in the future take a look at other rigs and kind of see what they have to offer. So I hope this kind of gave you a very good first look into the PROSIMU 2 Degrees of Freedom motion cockpit. If you have any questions, definitely post them in the comments below. You're going to see this as my main rig coming in the future, and we're just going to have a lot of fun with it. So as usual, I'm Crash, this is RTA Motorsports, and have a great day.